Hello, my name is Piers Ravel. Thank you for dropping in on this podcast. This is me. I'm a lecturer in politics and international relations at the University of Plymouth, and I'm also the program lead for politics. And I'm here to tell you a few things about our politics degree program here at Plymouth. I want to say a few things about what the politics program here is all about, what kind of courses you'll be studying if you do decide to come here, plus a few answers to some frequently asked questions by people who've previously attended some of our open days. So we offer two main programs involving politics at Plymouth. We have a BSc in Politics with International Relations, and we also offer BSc in International Relations with Politics. Now, these programs are quite similar in many ways, and there's quite a lot of overlap between them. But just to explain very briefly, we decided that we wanted to cater for two different types of student. Our first track, the Politics with International Relations program, is for those students who want to major in politics but minor in international relations. And our second track, the International Relations with Politics program, that one is for those who want to major in international relations and minor in politics. In other words, if you are primarily interested in the politics that takes place within nation states and just a little bit interested in politics that takes place between nation states, then it's the Politics with International Relations program that's the one for you. On the other hand, if you're primarily interested in the politics that takes place between nation states and a little bit less interested in the politics that takes place within nation states, then it's the International Relations program with politics that's the best one for you. Both of these programs are taught by myself and my colleagues in the Politics and International Relations department here at Plymouth. And in this podcast, I'm going to talk mainly about the Politics of International Relations program. If you think that you might be more interested in the International Relations with Politics program, or indeed in the International Relations Honours program, then that's absolutely fantastic. For all inquiries about the International Relations with Politics program, I strongly recommend that you also engage with my dear friends and colleagues, Dr. Lorenzo Cloudy and James Allburn. So, what is our politics program at Plymouth all about? Well, I'm grateful to have this opportunity to talk about it because I'm quietly quite proud of our politics program here, actually. And this is because it's quite a new politics degree. The politics major was launched in 2013. And so when we were thinking about this program and what it should look like back in 2011, 2012, we had a completely blank slate. We didn't have any historical baggage whatsoever. And so we decided that our new politics program should be a program that was designed specifically for the 21st century. And we also decided it should be a program that had a theme that ran through it. In other words, it shouldn't be a program where there was just one module or course that ran after another and there was no kind of linking narrative. All the modules on our program should kind of fit together and have a theme that kind of ran through it. So we decided that the common theme that linked our modules together should be democracy and democratization. And we decided this because we realized that a lot of the politics, the majority of the politics of the 21st century is about democracy and democratization. You know, whether it's debates about the European Union and arguments about Brexit, or whether it's about the rise of populists such as Donald Trump or Bolsonaro in Brazil, or whether it's about struggles against dictators and struggles for freedom and human rights across the world, or if it's about the struggle to mitigate or adapt to climate change. All of these issues have at their root some really important debates about democracy and democratization, you know, what it is and what it is that people are fighting for. And we also realized that a lot of the politics of the 21st century is about the fact that democracy is not something that we can take as a given in fact or form. You know, politicians often use the word democracy as if everybody has the same ideas about what this word means. But of course that's not true. It's highly contested, this word democracy, and often what a lot of political struggles are about is about the meaning of democracy. It's not a word that is fixed in time. What a lot of people meant by the word democracy today is very different to what people meant by it 100 years ago. And so the word democracy is changing today, as it always does, in response to new threats and new challenges. So for all these reasons, we decided that democracy and democratization should be the common theme of our politics program, and that's something that makes it a little bit distinctive. Another important thing to say about our politics program is that we put a strong emphasis on the fact that all national politics takes place within the context of global politics. That's why, unlike some other universities, we don't offer a standalone politics honours degree. We only offer a politics with international relations degree. And this is because we think that many 21st century challenges to democracy and debates about democracy arise from global forces. So if you look at British politics over the past 10 years, for example, you'll find that an awful lot of it revolves around impacts upon us coming from outside, whether it's an international financial crash or a virus or the foreign policies of other countries. So we believe that national political systems can no longer be studied as if they exist in isolation from the world around them. So what we offer here is a politics with international relations degree program. So having told you what the overall theme of the Politics and IAR program is here, I'm now just going to walk you through the modules one by one across all three stages to let you know what it looks like in more detail. So this slide lists the 4 politics modules that our students study here in their first year. The first one, PIR 100, Discovering World Politics, is our front of house module. Pretty much as soon as you hit your feet, as soon as your feet hit the ground, you'll be studying this module exclusively for the first 4 weeks of your academic career. And the idea behind this module really is to help all our students get to know each other, get to make some friends, and also get to know all members of staff on the Politics and International Relations team, and to establish working relationships with your personal tutor. Also to get to know the library, get to know how it works, how to make the best use of the resources it has to offer. We also get you to do a couple of assessments in order to help you work out what things you need to work on a little bit in terms of personal development, so that you can thrive here and really do well as an undergraduate. And we do all this while looking at some core concepts in world politics that we believe should serve as key building blocks for all your other modules in the Politics with International Relations program. The second module, Democracy and Democratization, that's one of my modules. And this module is about the key thinkers who've contributed to what people are thinking about when they use the word democracy. So when you ask the average person on the street today what democracy means to them, they might offer you some of the first things that pop into your head. They might say, well, it means elections. They might say it's about political parties, isn't it? Competing for political power. Or they might say it's about the government of the people, by the people, for the people. Or they might say it's about everybody participating. Or they might say it's about equal rights. Or they might say it's about liberty and freedom. And sometimes these different ideas about democracy don't always fit together too well. Sometimes they conflict. Sometimes they're a little bit exclusive. So the first thing we do in this module is look at the original thinkers who said all these things about democracy for the first time, and try and understand why they disagreed with each other. And then after that, we do things like see if there are ways in which we might be able to measure democracy. And we also look at some of the contemporary threats to democracy and try and think about how much danger many of our contemporary democracies might be in and why. The third module, POL 101, Comparative Democracies, is led by my friend and colleague, David Brockington. And the idea of this module is that once you can find your way around all the different definitions of democracy and arguments about what democracy is, then you can start to look at some actually existing democracies, or states at least, that think of themselves and call themselves democracy. We can pick up some different liberal democracies and begin to compare them, think about which ones we prefer and which ones we think are not quite so good. And this is exactly what David Brockington's module does. He looks at the United States, the UK, Germany and France, and compares and contrasts them. These are all states that call themselves democracies. But actually, when you begin to look at them, you begin to realise that they're really quite different in lots of different ways. So this is what this module is about. It's about comparing different political systems that think of themselves as democracies and thinking about their strengths and weaknesses. The fourth module is about the environment, one planet, society and sustainability. We live in a world where the world's democracies and other states too are having to deal with an increasing number of global environmental degradation issues. So this module is about those issues and what global society is attempting to do about them. And environmental degradation issues, of course, include some serious questions about democracy. So some people, for example, have argued that if we're serious about wanting to deal with environmental degradation, then we're going to have to sacrifice some highly cherished principles on liberty and freedom. On the other hand, some people have argued that if we're serious about tackling climate change, for example, then it's important to think about environmental justice and equality. So that's what that module is about. So this slide is just here to show you what the first year looks like in diagrammatic form. And it's also there to show you the sequencing of the year in terms of the way the modules are delivered. So in the first 4 weeks, you're doing PIR 100. Then for the next 10 weeks or so, you're studying PIR 101 and IRL 100. And then in semester 2, you're doing Gov 1000 for 4 weeks. And then POL 101 and IRL 102 for about 10 weeks after that. So this is something that's a bit distinctive about learning and teaching at Plymouth University, actually. In many other universities, you usually find yourself studying 6 courses throughout the year. But in this university, we've chosen to break things down a bit so that students aren't being asked to study everything at the same time. We think this helps students to concentrate a little bit more on just 1 or 2 things at a time, so that they're not quite so overwhelmed in the first year. The 2 IRL modules, IRL 100 and IRL 102, are the international relations modules on the politics of international relations programs. So I won't tell you too much about these courses because, of course, that's our job for my colleagues Lorenzo Clardi and James Goulburn. But basically, IRL 101 is about how everyone thinks about world politics and how it works, whilst IRL 102 is about how the second half of the 20th century and the first 2 decades of the 21st century have helped to shape the world we live in now. So assuming you get through the first year successfully, then this is what the second year looks like. POL 200 is led by my colleague Patrick Holden. This module is about the European Union. Now, we all know that Britain is in the process of leaving the European Union. But of course, when we leave the European Union, it isn't just going to go away. It's still going to be there. It's still going to be our major trading partner. It's still going to be a leading political partner in international relations with which we share a lot of interests in common. So at Plymouth, we think that it's still very important, perhaps more important than ever, for people to know about how the European Union works, what its problems are, what its strengths and its weaknesses are, and basically know everything we need to know in order to live with the European Union in the most constructive and amicable way possible. That's what POL 200 is all about, really. POL 205, led by David Brockington. That's a module that tends to be quite popular with students because it looks at British politics from a rather distinctive angle. An important part of democracy involves the business of competitive political campaigns during elections. And in recent years, the question of what makes a good election campaign and what are the factors behind success or failure have become a subject of study in the discipline of politics itself. And this module looks at how voters behave, how, it looks at the use of opinion polls and the techniques and strategies often adopted by political parties in modern political campaigns. And one of the assessments for this module, actually, which students really enjoy, involves a simulation exercise where students have to work out a campaign strategy for a candidate in a general election. Then there's PIR 200, which is led by me, Piers Ravel. And this module is what might be is about what might be called the politics of everyday life. It's about stuff like the food that we eat. It's about the clothes that we stand up in, and all the everyday consumer goods that most of us use nearly every day in our lives, such as mobile phones or cars or washing machines. And it's also about the jobs that we all do in order to get the money to pay for food, for clothing and smartphones and what have you. Now, in normal times, a lot of people like you and me tend to take these things for granted. But sometimes something can happen to us that makes us realize that we can't always take these things for granted. Sometimes something as simple as a virus, for example, makes us realize that we can't take our food, our clothing, our jobs, and our smartphones for granted anymore. And that's what international political economy is all about, really. It's about what happens when we suddenly realize, we wake up in the morning and we suddenly realize we can't take the politics of everyday life for granted anymore. The fourth module, Poll 203, led by James Goulburn, is called Civil Society in the Public Sphere. Now, we all know that politics is all about elections and parties, and it's about parliaments and representative assemblies. It's about cabinets and prime ministers and presidents and all that sort of stuff. But this Civil Society in the Public Sphere course looks at more informal types of politics that takes place outside all that formal stuff. Civil society refers to other political actors in democratic politics, like trade unions, business unions, non-governmental organisations, protest groups, and political lobbyists. That's civil society. And public sphere refers to all the places and spaces where we discuss and debate about politics through things like television and newspapers, through social media and the internet, or in public halls, in pubs and clubs. So this module is all about the politics of civil society and the public sphere. So one thing it looks at, for example, is about the politics of the internet. Now, I think that most people would agree that they get a lot of their information about politics via social media nowadays. It's also the place where a lot of us go if we feel we've got something to say about politics, something that we need to get off our chest. So in a lot of ways, I think many people would agree that the internet has made a lot of positive things possible when it comes to democratic politics. On the other hand, I think many people say that there are some things that have a negative impact on democracy from social media, such as the implications of electronic surveillance, for example. This is possibly, the dark side of the internet that we need to think about. So There are lots of issues covered in James Goulburn's Civil Society and the Public Sphere module that make this this politics and international relations course, quite distinctive. So I put this slide up to show how the delivery of these modules looks throughout the academic year. You can see that in year 2, our students take 3 modules in the first semester and 3 modules in the second semester. And you'll also see that there are 3 international relations modules there also to choose from. IRL 200 is about the politics that takes place across and between states, looking at in some detail at examples of foreign policy making and statecraft within specific examples of global conflict, cooperation and governance. Then there's IRL 201, or Security Studies, that's taught by Lorenzo Clardi. That's exactly what it says on the tin. It's about how states and international organisations attempt to provide security for nations and peoples. It looks at things like the threat of terrorism and violent conflict between states and within states, and other global risks such as fragility to food and energy supplies, and it challenges students to think about how these threats and risks might be countered and managed. The third international relations module, IRL 203, that's about the global south and its relations with states of the north. It looks at issues of development and underdevelopment and the problem of inequality between rich nations and poor nations. So we have an arrangement where you can, if you wish, choose to study politics and international relations abroad in your second year instead of studying it at Plymouth. We've got some sister universities in places like the United States, Poland, Norway, Italy, Germany, where you can go and study there. Now, of course, the possibility of this object, the possibility of this is subject to the return of some sort of normality in the wake of coronavirus. So I can't absolutely promise this study abroad option will be available. So I won't say too much more about it right now, except to say that we hope to be able to resurrect the study abroad program in people's second year in the medium to long term. And this is what the final year of our program looks like. There's a very strong element of choice in the third year. The only compulsory module in the third year is PIR 300. And there's an element of choice within this module as well, because in this module you get the chance to do a piece of research on a question about politics of your own choice, and then write up that research in a dissertation of 12,000 words. In order to help you through this process, you're allocated a member of staff as your dissertation supervisor. And the job of the dissertation supervisor is to help you work out a research question that's answerable in 12,000 words, and to support you in your quest to find out answers to the questions about politics that matter most to you. Then we've got a choice of 8 other elective modules to choose from. These modules are led by members of staff who are research active in these module topics that you see on the slide. So, for example, we've got some research strengths in the regional politics of places like the Middle East and in Africa. We're quite strong in regional politics across the world. And we've also got a scholar who's strong in the domestic politics and foreign policy of the United States, still the most powerful nation state in the world. Okay. We've also got a member of staff who specialises in the security politics of NATO in the 21st century, and another who holds expertise in relations between Europe and the rest of the world. And then there's my own third stage elective, PIR 306, which is about global environmental politics. And this module is about the politics of things like climate change, ocean governance, and biodiversity. And as I'm sure you already know, dealing with global environmental problems like climate change is not just a technical or scientific problem, it's a political problem. And that's what the environmental political economy is all about. Finally, there's also the option of taking our work-based learning module. We decided to offer this module because we realised that as students move into their third year, many of them are starting to think seriously about what they'd like to do after they leave Plymouth University. So for this module, the task is for you to find an internship with an employer who works in an area related loosely to politics and international relations. You stay there for a couple of weeks or more, and then you write up your experiences during that internship together with some reflections on the employability skills that you learned during the application process undertaken during your search for an internship. So I think I've got just enough time to give a couple of quick answers to two of the most frequently asked questions by people who come and attend our open days. The first is, what is the teaching and learning like at the University of Plymouth? And the second is, what can I do with my BSc in Politics with International Relations when I leave Plymouth University? So when it comes to the first question, we operate a wide range of learning and teaching methods here at Plymouth. We do the traditional stuff that you would normally expect at a university, like lectures and seminars. But we also do some of the less traditional stuff, like workshops and simulation exercises. Our teaching is also increasingly supported by modern teaching aids, such as digital forms of teaching delivery and communication. And I can't resist telling you about our NSS scores from the last 2 years. Okay. The NSS is the National Student Satisfaction Survey that's filled in by all politics students right across the UK. And we are very proud that in 2018, we came second in the country for student satisfaction with regard to the teaching on our course. And we came third in the country for things like quality of assessment methods and feedback methods. And we also came pretty high when it comes to academic support and overall satisfaction. And then in 2019, we proved that this was no flash in the pan. Okay, we got 100% student satisfaction on the teaching on my course and on overall satisfaction. Now, I must, of course, hasten to add that the teaching and learning at most universities across the UK is generally of a very high standard. Okay, I've got lots of colleagues in other universities. Okay, so I'm not dissing them at all. Okay, all I'm saying is that I think that our NSS scores do suggest that we're doing something right here on our Politics and International Relations program at the University of Plymouth. When it comes to the second question, what can I do with my politics and IR degree when I leave? Well, of course, the answer is that there's a whole lot of things that you can do. But I think if you look at our NSS scores again, on what students felt about their prospects on graduating back in 2019, you'll find that the majority of students felt that they were leaving with a clear sense of direction and purpose. So 97% of our students felt that they'd improved their career prospects as a result of their course, and 87% said that they'd received good advice when it came to making career choices and looking at further study options. How did we achieve these scores? Well, I think a lot is explained by the fact that back in 2016 we decided to have a jolly good look at our employability services and give them a bit of an upgrade. And we worked very closely with our careers team, and the consequence was that we did 3 things to help our students in their personal development in their 3 years at Plymouth that we've rolled out now. We made sure that graduate development activities were actually embedded in all of our modules. We made sure that our program had a dedicated careers advisor that gets to know and work with all our students. So if you come here, you'll know your careers advisor, and it won't be, a distant careers office that, feels intimidating to go to. You'll know who your careers advisor is. And we also made sure that our personal tutor system worked closely with our careers team so that the academic side of our teaching and learning went hand in glove with the personal development side of our teaching and learning. We're also rather proud of our internship bursary scheme. We realise that some of our students and families find it hard to support themselves when doing internships with potential employers, and yet all the research shows that doing internships can make a profound difference to employment prospects. So what we do here is we offer financial support to help students finance themselves through their internships. And these bursaries can be anything from £100 to help people with travel costs within the UK, or up to £1,000 for internships in places abroad that can incur heavy expenses. I think the other reason why politics students at Plymouth feel supported when it comes to their personal development and what they do when they leave this place is that we try and make sure that there are opportunities for them to demonstrate an interest in their subject outside their formal curriculum. As any employer who develops formal processes in their recruitment will tell you, this is very important when it comes to writing strong applications and filling in top class CVs that are going to get you over the first hurdles. So we have a PSOC student society that's specifically on politics and international affairs, which is led by students for students. We also run practical politics seminar series where politicians come to speak about their careers and about their life in politics. And we also have Plymouth PISC talks where researchers from across the UK are invited to come and speak about their special research interests to staff and students. So these are all things that you can say in your CVs, in your applications. I took an active interest in politics and international relations outside the formal curriculum. So there's lots more that I could say, but I think that's all I've got time for. Thank you very much for listening. Wherever you do decide to study politics, I thought I'd just wish you all the best and reassure you that politics is a great thing to study at university, wherever you do decide to study it. And of course, if you do have any further questions that you'd like to ask, please don't hesitate to contact me at piersravel@plymouth.ac.uk. Goodbye and good luck wherever you do decide to go. Thank you very much.